Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and in this video I'll be working with the Brutus Monroe October 2021 inspiration box. This one's called Autumn Harvest. And in today's video I'm actually just going to use the foilables that come in the kit. It's actually one of the main reasons why I picked up the kit to try out. And before I do anything at all with these foilables, what I did was I actually scanned in all 4 designs. These are cut down to USA 2, so if you configure them exactly as I've shown here, this is an 8.5 by 11 total size. So basically a US letter piece of sheet of paper. So I've just got a home printer. It's an all-in-one printer that does scanning on a flatbed. So I scanned this into my computer, and now I have a digital version of all of these designs. So once I've got that, now I can do a variety of things. So here what I've done is I've gone ahead and scaled this down a little bit because I want to pass it through my laser printer and see how home printed foilable panels compared to the original panels that we get in the kit. My laser printer does not print full bleed, meaning it doesn't print borderless all the way to the edge, so that's why I had to scale it down. However, I do have a color inkjet printer, and that's what I use to print this out, which does print borderless. So you can see here the comparison. I've printed this on glossy photo paper because I did want to just print out some color versions, and I just brought the image into Photoshop and just did some coloring. So this top one here, I just put a nice blue sky background, did some gradient fills on the flowers, and then the bottom panel has a more sepia kind of look to it. Once you've scanned this in and you have it in digital form, there's so much you can do with it now, and you can edit it, you can color it, and print it. So if you're not a fan of coloring, then bring it into any photo editing software and color it digitally. I also happen to have a Cricut Explorer Air 2, and that machine has a print and cut functionality. So what I did was I clipped out some individual flowers and the rocket ship from the Reach for the Stars box kit, and I put together a selection of print and cut so that I can have some die cuts that I can add to my projects as well. So I'll go ahead and trim some of these panels down, and I'm just going to store them right in the box that the kit came in so that I have them there and ready to work with. And I think that it's well worth, if you have a printer that has scanning capabilities, to go ahead and scan in these panels, because that way you can just use them forever. The kit does give you 2 panels of each of the 4 designs, but once you use them up, they're done. So by scanning them in and digitizing them, you have them to use over and over again. You can still, if you have a laser printer or want to take the image to a print shop like a Kinko's or a FedEx, then you can get the images laser printed and still do all of the foiling techniques that you can do on the original panels. So I really think that it's well worth it to scan these in. And I'm going to go ahead and trim down all of these panels just so that I have them ready to work with. One thing I'm eager to learn, and I'll be experimenting in this video, is how my home printed panels compare to the original panels. My speculation is that the original panels will probably foil better, because my home laser printer is nothing special. It's a Brother laser printer. It's kind of, it's not even a top end one even when I bought it a couple years ago. So it's, nothing special. It'll get the job done, but That's why I am assuming that what comes in the kit, they probably have much better printers than what I have at home. So that is my guess. What I have learned in my experience of using my laminator to foil is that generally I'm more likely to get underfoiling, especially on images or text that have really fine lines. And I think the reason for that is because the laser printer and laminator combination of foiling relies on the fact that laser printers use toner as opposed to a dye or a pigment ink like inkjet printers do. And toner is essentially a type of plastic. So when something goes through your laser printer, toner gets melted onto the paper essentially. And then when you take that and you pass it through your laminator, it remelts that plastic. So if there is transfer foil over top of that, then that toner, that melted toner is what's going to grab on to the foil. And that's essentially how transfer foil works. It needs something that is going to be sticky in order to attach itself to your project. So my guess is that there's a couple things that aren't exactly a fair comparison, because with my panels, I did have to scale down the image from the original, so that is going to make the lines a little bit thinner. So we'll see whether at the end of the day that makes a difference or not. Also, I'm printing these images onto 100-pound cover weight cardstock. I use Hammermill's. It's ultra smooth. It's bright white. It's actually their premium color digital copy paper. So it's meant to be really, really good for crisp images. And it's actually the cardstock that I use when I do any alcohol marker coloring as well, because it's so smooth and so bright white. And being smooth like that, that should also help with foiling. So, and that 100-pound cardstock is thicker than the original panel. So I do have some things that should help my home printed panel actually foil well. But there are just so many variables. And I think that's one of the reasons why I also would recommend scanning in these images, because sometimes it takes a couple of tries before you kind of lock into that perfect combination of cardstock type and weight, the type of the image and how thick or thin the lines are of your image. And so with the kit only providing 2 panels in each design, if it does take you a little while to figure out that perfect combination, you don't really have that many, images to play with. So being able to kind of print off your own and make as many copies and, do trial and error as many times as you need is really, really nice. So I've set up my Cricut mat here so that can go ahead and start cutting. And then I'll go ahead and while that's cutting, show you a little bit of coloring. So I have here the version that's printed on the glossy photo paper. Because glossy paper or this photo paper has a coating on it, the alcohol marker doesn't actually absorb into the paper, rather it just sits on top and sort of moves around a little bit differently than how your coloring will work on regular cardstock, where the cardstock actually absorbs the ink. And so what I found is I only color maybe 1, maybe 2 petals at a time, because when that ink dries, it just is a very different look to blending and coloring on regular cardstock. And I played around with starting light, going dark, starting dark, going light. You can do whatever works for you, but the nice thing about the photo paper is that you do get a very kind of a very saturated look to the coloring. And I'll show you in the end a comparison side by side with the other version. So now that my die cuts are ready, I'll go ahead and show you the coloring on regular cardstock. So this is that hammer mill paper that is 100-pound cover weight, super smooth, ultra bright white. And it's a dream to color on. And here I can actually color 2-3 petals at a time before that ink dries and becomes hard to blend out. So there's a little bit of a technique difference between the two, and you'll see when I compare this with the other how the end result looks. And I think it's just personal choice what you prefer, what look you prefer, and what you think will work well on your project. So the nice thing about using the Cricut is that I can actually have these individual die cuts, so it's really convenient and no fussy cutting. Okay, so here's my comparison. On the leftmost is glossy paper, in the middle is cardstock, and on the right is my inkjet printer, and colored digitally and then printed out. So so you can see there's a difference between all three, and stylistically you may choose one over the other just depending on personal preference. These are some of the sentiment strips that came in the kit, and I'm gonna first start off with foiling these as just a little bit of a test. So my Amazon laminator is off to the side there, warming up. You want to make sure that it's good and hot. And this laminator has two settings. There's a 5mm setting and a 3mm because there are different thicknesses of laminating sheets. I put it on the 5mm because I believe that is the hotter setting, and I want to get this as hot as I can. Now, I always feed this through face up, and I don't know if that makes a difference, so that's going to be my next experiment. But I do always pass it through this folded sheet of copy paper. It's a nice sort of carrier for passing through, especially small pieces like this, but always with my foiling, even if it's a larger piece. And that way, that copy paper is going to protect the inner workings of your laminator, and nothing is going to get sort of caught up on the rollers of the laminator. So I'm preparing the two panels, and I always like to let my laminator heat up between foiling. So there is a green light for when your laminator has come up to heat and is ready for you to pass something through it again. I still let it sit, an extra few minutes or so beyond that, just so that it gets like really good and hot. And so the other tip I have is to make sure that your pieces are not warm to the touch anymore. And so, as I kind of speculated, the version of the sentiment that is has the black background where it's got more toner, that definitely worked better than the black toner on white cardstock. So just something that's good to know. I always kind of anticipated that would be the case, but it's good to see the results for myself. I also always pass the whatever I'm foiling, I pass it through twice just to make sure that it works. And look at that. I got a perfect foiling on this die cut piece. So I was really, really impressed because this is the very first time that I've ever gotten a full 100% foiling, and it's fantastic. The Cricut also did a perfect job die cutting this as well. Some of the other ones, I think the registration was a little bit off, and It wasn't quite as perfectly spaced as that one. But here is my home printed panel after it's been foiled, and you can see all those dots. That's toner still showing through. So this is definitely underfoiled, and there's a lot of spottiness there. And I'm gonna I picked that die cut up just to admire it again. I had such high hopes once I saw that one come through. So this one has cooled now. This is the original panel that came in the box, and it did foil better, but as you can see, there are still some spots where I can see the toner hasn't actually picked up the foil. Now, I think what I might try to do the next time I foil with the panels that come in the kit is to actually add a shim, just to kind of increase the pressure, increase the thickness of what's passing through the laminator, and maybe that'll give me a better foiling, because my die cut, which is on thicker cardstock but the exact same image, worked beautifully. So I think that's the difference, is the weight, the paper weight. And the other thing I'm going to try to do is actually print off on my laser printer a version that's not scaled down, because that's what my die cut is. That's not scaled at all. And so I think because it's not scaled down, the line weight on that illustration is thicker than my scaled down version. So I'm also going to try that as well. But that's why I'm really glad that I scanned this in, because now I can really experiment, get to understand my laminator, get to understand how foiling works, and then I don't have to worry about running out of this pattern. So I'm gonna layer my die cut right on top of my printed panel here. And if you don't have all of the things I described, you do get 2 panels, so you can still make this card or something similar if you want. You'll just have to cut down one of the panels. And I didn't end up using any of the sentiments that came in the kit, because this looks so much brighter and more summertime or springtime to me, so I just used my Dymo label and printed out my own sentiment. So I hope that this video gives you a couple of different ideas for how to kind of stretch the foilables that come in the kit, and just do some experimenting and having fun with them once you've digitized them. If you like this video, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And if you want to catch new videos as I publish them, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Thanks so much, and until my next video, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye!